bilayer in which who are inserted? Proteins. These are proteins. Proteins are embedded or inserted. Is it clear? That's the structure. Now, this is one phospholipid molecule. Each phospholipid molecule or unit has a head part. This is the head, and this is called the tail. Okay? Head part is called polar. Polar end, and tail part is called non-polar. Remember, head part is hydrophilic and tail part is hydrophobic. Okay, so few information there, right? So each phospholipid has how many parts? Head part and tail part. Head part is called polar. Tail part is called non-polar. Head part is what? Hydrophilic. Philia means what? Phobia means what? Phobia. Fear, right? Scare. Philia is opposite. Philia. Attraction. Okay? So, hydrophilic head part. Hydro means what?
Water.
Water. Hydro means water. So, hydrophilia means what?
Water attraction.
Yes. Right? So, head part loves water. And tail part hates water. Hydrophobic. Is it clear? Okay. Now you tell me, this part is what? Hydrophilic or hydrophobic? Philic, right? But this part? Phobic. Makes sense? So water molecules will not be able to pass through the phospholipid bilayer because this entire part is hydrophobic. Makes sense? Doesn't like water. Will not let the water molecule pass through. Okay? Anyway, so that's the phospholipid bilayer. Now proteins. Two types of proteins. Some are deeply inserted. These are called integral. These are integral proteins. Both. This one going all through. This one is deeply inserted. So both are integral. And this is peripheral protein. Peripheral protein. Okay. So, two types of proteins. There are a few other things in the cell membrane. Those are in very small amount, like cholesterol or glycolipids. Those are also present. Cholesterols like this. Glycolipids are also present. Let me write it down. Cholesterol and glycolipids and glycoproteins are also present. So those are in a small amount. Mainly, we say phospholipid bilayer in which proteins are embedded. That's the structure. Okay. Here you see glycoproteins, glycolipids, cholesterol. Those are in small amount. Okay. Now you said me that this phospholipid bilayer doesn't allow water pass through it, right? Then how the water is a very important chemical that must enter into the cell, right? Yes. So how water molecules will enter into the cell? You see, through some integral proteins, you have channels. Not all, some integral proteins have channels. So water can easily get in. Makes sense? So it will find a different path to enter into the cell. That's the channels through the proteins. Those are called the channel proteins. You see here, this one. Okay. So that is the structure of a cell membrane. Now we'll talk about the functions of integral and peripheral proteins. Integral proteins, one I have already mentioned, by forming channels, they allow the molecules get in or out. That is the transportation of chemicals, help in transportation of chemicals. Some integral proteins work as receptors, and some integral proteins, by forming channels, they help in transportation. Okay, so those are the functions of the integral proteins. Some integral proteins also work as enzymes. Okay, so those are the functions: transportation, transport, by forming channels. So channels we can write. Channels act as receptors. Okay, so those are the functions of integral. Integral. Peripheral proteins perform two very important functions. Now I am talking about peripheral proteins. This one. Number one, cell junctions. We'll talk about this later. Another is cell recognition. Very important. So those two just write down: peripheral protein. Okay, peripheral proteins. Cell junction, form cell junction, and help in cell recognition. Okay. You see here, these integral proteins have channels, right? Look at this, have channels. So, transport, right? The molecules can move from outside to inside or inside to outside through those channels. Now, you see in this picture two types of channels. One channel is always open, always remains, this channel always remains open. So smaller molecules, those are smaller than the size of the channel, will easily get in and out. Is it clear? Okay. Another type of channels, you see, those are called gated channels. That means what? Close and open, right? So when needs, it will open, right? Otherwise, it will get closed. So to open and close the gate, you need what? Energy, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to open the gate or close the gate. So these channels use ATP. So ATP to open or close the gate. So these are gated channels. But both types of channels help in transportation, transport of chemicals. Makes sense? Okay. Now this is very interesting. How some integral proteins work as receptors. So, like this is again, I am drawing the cell membrane. This is the integral protein. Okay. Okay. So this integral protein act as receptor. Let me draw another one that will help you to understand. Okay, another one here. Okay. Now, you see three integral proteins and they work as receptors. This is outside of the cell and this is inside the cell. Okay. The outer part of these integral proteins, those work as receptors. They have binding sites. For example, this one has a round shaped binding site. This one has square binding site. This one has triangular binding site. Make sense? These are called what? Binding sites. Three different types of binding sites. Make sense? Now, just let me give you an example. When you take a medicine, for example, you have taken a medicine that will work on the heart tissue. Okay? So medicine molecules, blood will take the medicine molecules to the cell or heart tissue. So these are the molecules. Okay? So if the medicine that you have taken, the shape of the molecules is this, not this. The shape is this. It will come here on this integral protein and will fit very nicely because it is round. Make sense? If it goes here, this will say what? No, you cannot sit on me. Make sense? If it goes here, it will say what? No, your shape doesn't fit, match with mine. So this medicine molecule or drug molecule is the signal molecule that will come on the cell membrane and will bind with those receptors. They have what? Same shaped binding sites. Clear? Same shaped binding site. And when that binding will be perfect, it is like, when you put your key in your car and move like this, that does what? Starts the engine. So you all know that, right? Now if you get a wrong key and put it inside, it will not fit there, right? And if it doesn't fit, engine will not start. Exactly same thing here. You see, when that signal or chemical or medicine or hormone molecules, whatever you say, will perfectly bind with the integral protein site, then what will happen? The signal will go inside the cell and that will start the engine. That means that will trigger the intrinsic function of the cell. If none of these shapes match with this, then this cell will not be activated. Makes sense, right? So the signal molecule that is coming from outside must perfectly bind with the receptors. So these are the integral proteins working as receptors. And that's why it is very important that the pharmaceuticals, they make the medicines, they need to also study what kind of receptors are present in the heart, in the kidney, in the liver. They have to make the molecules like that will perfectly bind or fit on that organ, to work on that organ. Is it clear? Okay. So that's how integral proteins can work as receptors. Enzymes, you know that the function of enzyme is converting one type of molecule to another, chemical reaction. So these two, this is a very simple diagram. These two integral proteins are working as two different types of enzymes. That's why the first one is converting this molecule to this, and second one is from this to this. So those are the functions of the integral proteins that I have mentioned. Transport by forming channels, acting as enzymes, and acting as receptors. Now, peripheral proteins perform two functions, important, there are more, but these two are very important. One is form junctions, another is cell recognition. Okay, let me talk about that, then we'll stop. Okay, so peripheral proteins form junctions. what is that? You know, the cells are often attached to each other. So these are three cells, you see, are attached to each other by these structures. These are the peripheral proteins that form the junctions, okay? Intercellular junctions. That means the joining between the cells, okay? So that is one function. And another is cell-to-cell recognition. These are the peripheral proteins on the cell membrane. So just think this is one cell membrane. This is another cell membrane. Okay, and these are peripheral proteins on other type of cell membrane. Peripheral protein. So now, when this cell will come close to this cell, these peripheral proteins will help them to identify each other. Okay, these peripheral proteins will help them, these cells, to identify each other. This is a very interesting function, right? When two cells come close to each other, they can identify each other. Okay, you all know that. Like if you take your skin got burnt, if you take skin grafting from another person's body and put there, the chance of what? Accepting or rejecting is high. Rejecting, if you get from another person's body. Make sense? We all know that. That's a big problem, right? Organ transplantation or tissue transplantation, right? So, your body, why your body rejects? Because your tissue, your cells can identify, right? That coming from another person's body. Make sense? So that is cell-to-cell recognition given by peripheral protein. Now, if I take skin from your own body, another part of your body, and put it there, it will accept. That means, again, that your body cells can identify, right, the other cells coming from your own body or coming from another person. That is very important, right? Very important. So that is the function given by the peripheral proteins. Is it clear? Okay. So let's stop here. Before we stop, I'll briefly go over what you have learned today. Okay? Can you help me? Ready to help me? Or you forgot everything? Okay. Take a little time to consolidate. Okay. So we talked about the cells, right? Okay, good. Cells are structural and functional. What? Structural and functional units of what? Living body, right? Because we know that individual cell can survive like amoeba or bacteria, right? Okay, good. Now, cell has three parts: plasma membrane or cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus. Very good. Okay. Why nucleus is important? Because the genetic materials are there called DNA. Is it clear? Okay. DNA are present in the chromatins, and inside the nucleus, in one place, the chromatins are densely packed. That structure is called what?
The nucleus.
Nucleolus. Is it clear? Nucleolus. And outside of nucleolus, you have the nucleoplasm, right? Where you also have chromatins. And outer membrane of nucleus is called the envelope, where you have pores, right? Okay, good. Now, three types of RNA.
rRNA and
R means what?
ribosomal.
Ribosomal.
mRNA, which is the messenger, and
Yes.
tRNA.
Transfer RNA, right? And you know the function, you remember? Three types of functions. Okay, good. Then you have other structures. So ribosomes come out from nucleolus, right? And get attached on the rough ear. Very good. Rough ear, remember? And ribosomes do what? Produce proteins, manufacturing, right? And then protein molecules enter into rough ear, where processing This means folding, right? Cutting, folding, modifying, those things are done, right? And that is the processing. And then processed proteins go to the Golgi apparatus, where packaging is done. Is that clear? So what happens? The proteins move to the ends, right? Ends are like more round. And the end parts get separated from the main body and become vesicles, right? Containing molecules. Okay, that protein molecules could be hormones, okay, or neurotransmitter, or another type of chemicals, signal chemicals. So vesicle will move to the cell membrane and will rupture, right? So by exocytosis. Clear? Okay. So other structures like smooth ear, smooth part of ear, has 3 or 4 functions I have mentioned, right? Number 1 is what? Anybody? Lipid synthesis. Very good. Number 2, detoxification. Number 3, I said storage of calcium. Okay, just remember those 3. Then you have mitochondria, which is called powerhouse because it produces plenty of ATP, right? Very good. You have peroxisome, same function of smooth, like which detoxification, right? You have, so those are the components. Centrioles or centrosomes help in cell division. I didn't mention that. Anyway, now the cell membrane is permeable, semi-permeable, or non-permeable. Semi-permeable, right? So it allows some chemicals selectively, selective permeable. Okay. If I ask you, tell me in one sentence, what is the function of the cell membrane? In one sentence.
Directs what comes in and out of the cell?
Yeah, that is the very important. Other functions are giving the shape of the cell, right? Boundary of the cell separating inside from outside. Those are the function of the cell. If I ask you in one sentence, tell me the structure of a cell membrane.
Phospholipid bilayer.
In which
Houses proteins.
proteins are embedded, right? How many types of proteins? Integral and peripheral. Remember the functions of both types?
Peripheral junction and loop.
And
Cell recognition.
cell recognition, very good. And integral, transport by channel, right? Forming channel. Another one I explained for a long time, shape,
Receptors.
receptors, very good, right? And also acting as enzymes. Remember that? So basically those are the things we have taught, okay? You need to remember, don't forget, okay?